Hello, chess fans! This is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 87 in the series Viewers Games. It is the turn of Wojtek from Poland. Hi Rick, firstly let me say that I really enjoy your channel and I think that you are doing a great job. I'm 30 years old, I live in Warsaw in Poland. Chess is my big hobby, initiated by my grandfather. He taught me how to play when I was a child and we are playing together till this day. My rating on chess.com is around 1300, but I think I have some room for improvement. Don't we all? Even Magnus Carlsen in his interviews says that he still think he can improve. Wojtek says this game was played for a duration of 15 minutes plus 10 seconds per move on chess.com. So a rapid game, and that is good because often I get sent blitz games. I even get sent bullet games, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to analyze bullet games. But rapid time control is quite interesting. Wojtek is white, and I don't know the name of his opponent. I don't know the ratings either. Let's see what happens. Wojtek opened with the king's pawn and c5, the Sicilian, knight f3, e6, d4, and that pawn was taken, and then knight takes back. And now knight f6, attacking the e4 pawn, which is unprotected. And here, knight c3 is the move that has been played thousands of times. Bishop d3 is also possible, also protects the pawn. But here, Wojtek makes a mistake. He plays e5 to deal with the problem of the pawn on e4 being unprotected. He counter-attacks the knight. But that is a mistake. And Wojtek's opponent found the refutation, because this pawn is now lost. Do you see it? How can black win that pawn on e5? Well, with a very simple double attack. Queen a5 is check, and it's attacking the pawn at the same time, and the pawn on e5 is unprotected. So that pawn gets lost. Knight e3 to shield the check, played by Wojtek, and there goes that pawn with check. Bishop e3, knight c6 developing, bishop e2 developing. Both players are bringing their pieces into play, and Wojtek decides to take on c6, and black can take back with the d pawn or with the b pawn, and he decides on the b pawn, taking towards the center as per the general guideline. Generally, it's good to take towards the center to get more influence in the center. That's where you want to be in the opening. You want to have your pieces and pawns in the center or looking at the center. So taking towards the center is almost always correct. There are, of course, always exceptions to every rule, but in this case, b takes c6 is a good move. Wojtek decides to swap another piece. Queen takes, and both players put their king safely in the corner. They both castled. Rook e1 and d5. We have played 12 moves, and we can say that black has won the opening battle. He's a healthy pawn up, and he has no problems, no weaknesses in his camp. Queen d3 and e5, another good move from black, opening up the diagonal for the bishop, which is black's only problem piece. He needs to bring that bishop into the game. And now that bishop has a nice diagonal. Queen g3 from Wojtek and rook e8. Rook ad1, centralizing the rook. And now h5 from black. And it's the first time that black could have played a better move. Black can actually immediately go pawn hunting here. Instead of h5, he could have played d4, kicking the knight. And the knight has to go either to a4 or to b1. Not great squares for that knight. And then black can just take on c2, win a second pawn, and he has a very strong position here. 2 pawns up, and he will soon complete his development. For the moment, this knight is hanging, and then black will bring his bishop into play and centralize that rook, and he has a great game. But as mentioned, black played h5 here. Wojtek played bishop f1 to give this rook more scope. And now did black play d4, and he goes pawn hunting, but now it is not as strong because the knight does not have to go to a4 or b1, which were not great squares. the knight can now go to e4. And please note that was not possible in the previous variation, because then the knight just gets chopped off, because there was still a bishop on e2. That knight is unprotected on e4, but now it is protected by the rook on e1. Knight e4 was played by Wojtek, and you can now not take that pawn because there is knight takes f6 check, and the d-pawn is pinned. So you're also going to lose that rook on e8. Black did not fall for that. After knight e4, he took on e4. Rook takes, and now queen takes c2, winning a second pawn. But it's not as good as in the previous variation. The white pieces are now very active, and he is very likely to going to win a pawn back. That pawn on e5 is attacked twice and only defended once. You have to be careful with white. You can't take the pawn straight away. Rook takes e5 is a big blunder because of rook takes e5, queen takes e5, and now there's something hanging on d1. Queen takes d1 wins a full rook for black. So that's not possible. So after queen takes c2, and both rooks are actually hanging in this position, but Wojtek found rook de1, solving both problems in one go. Both rooks are now protected by each other, and it's an extra attack on the e5 pawn. Now what to do for black? The best move here is to greedily take another pawn. Queen takes b2 is the best move according to the engine, and then rook takes e5. And here white has some compensation for the two pawns, as his pieces are very active, and black still has two pieces at home. So compensation for white for the two pawns that he's down. Another possibility is to play bishop e6 to complete development. Then rook takes e5, and black is somewhat better. Another option is just to protect that e5 pawn. If you don't want to give that pawn up yet, you can play f6, but then that will cost you the pawn on d4. Rook takes d4 is now possible, because if you take that rook, then your rook on e8 is unprotected. As you can see, black has not completed his development. His rook on e8 is unprotected, and that gives some tactical possibilities for white. But what did black play here? He played a bad move. He played queen c5, protecting the e5 pawn. It's now protected twice, but it was already attacked 3 times by both rook and the queen. So it is going to cost him his e5 pawn anyway. White took it. Wojtek took on e5. Rook takes, attacking the queen. And the queen goes to f8, which is the only move. Black has to prevent the rook going to e8 with a very strong position. The king is then suddenly in big trouble, the black king. So queen f8 only move to protect the e8 square, and now rook takes h5. That's how quickly the tables can get turned in chess. One missed opportunity from black, and then one bad move, and white is in the driver's seat. Material is now equal. White has won the 2 pawns back, and white's pieces are more active than black's. Black still has not completed the development, and also black's king is less safe. It doesn't have great protection. The h7 pawn is missing. Amazing how quickly this game turns around. And it is so critical for black that he really only has one move. Queen e7 has to be played here to cover the h4 square, to keep the queen out of h4. It can't go to h3 because that is covered by the bishop, because those 2 heavy pieces on the h-file will be very problematic for black, as we'll see. So queen e7 was the only move, but black did not find it. He played bishop e6, completing his development, putting the bishop on a nice square, but completely missing that white now has a crushing attack on the h-file. And Wojtek saw it, and he played it, queen h4. And the obvious threat is rook h8, which would be checkmate. So black played f6. What else is there where there really is nothing else? And Wojtek writes, here my opponent made the last move, but then immediately resigned. I realize I made some big mistakes here, but my opponent also played quite poorly, so I managed to win. It would be interesting to see your analysis to learn how I should play without that mistakes and to win even quicker. Well, it was quite a good game. You blundered a pawn very early in the game with your e4, e5 move, overlooking that double attack. But you came back very well, Wojtek. Black missed one chance with d5, d4, winning a second pawn and pushing the white knight to a bad square. But after that, you played really well, got compensation for the pawns, you won the pawns back, and this is a very nice finish. Let's see how the game could have continued. Rook h8 check. It now wins the queen because of the skewer. King f7, rook takes queen, rook takes rook, and then queen takes d4. And this is an easily winning position. White has a queen for a rook, also one extra pawn, and he's going to win this game. As mentioned, Black resigned after f6, after he saw that rook h8 will cost him his queen. And Wojtek has won this game, and he shared it with me so that I could share it with the Chess to Impress community. Thank you, Wojtek, and well played. For a 1300 rating on chess.com, this is a very good game. But next time in this position, protect your pawn with knight c3 or bishop d3. Don't play e5 because you know now the trick, the double attack with queen a5 check. We have all fallen for traps like this, and once we've fallen for it once, we should make sure we don't do it again. Hope you enjoyed Wojtek's adventure in this game. I thought it was quite a fun game to analyze. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. If you would like your own game to be analyzed, you can send it to me by email to classroomchess64@gmail.com. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.